Because now they strip you of your culture, they strip you off, they tell you your grandfather, your great-great-grandfathers who are dead, they are demons. That's what religion tells you. But in Israel, when they pray to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Those people died a long time ago.
This is not radio. Entrepreneurship.
Are you making money out of this? So they robbed you. Bags of money involves some
Authentic Info Podcast.
Are you saying that there's no hell and there's no heaven?
When you talk about your childhood,
Music, art, religious talks, all in one on Authentic Info Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Authentic Info. Like in the last episode, I was with Mr. Mthimunye, who was speaking about Plan B, which is a business that supplements your salary. So today is going to share more about religion, since we mentioned that in the previous episode that it's not only a person of business, but also in the church. He was also working for the department. So today is going to give us another version of him. So it's going to speak about the religion. It's going to introduce the topic. I will ask more questions when he's speaking so that we get clarity while we're moving. Mr. Mthimunye, it's been almost 2 months since we met and shot the previous episode. How have you been? How are you? What are we talking about today?
Thanks, Mr. Chauki, again for having me. Yeah. Yes. It's been quite some challenging times. I was sick and what I'm all right now.
Yeah, thank you.
And I appreciate the opportunity to come in your space again.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Bafana Mthimunye. I am a pastor. I am a worker in government. I am a business hustler on the side. And today, specifically, we're going to talk about religion, issues in religion, particularly the origins of the Bible. Where did the Bible come from? Who wrote the Bible? And is the Bible the infallible word of God?
Okay, so where do we start?
First, okay, the Bible has got 66 books. Okay, there's 39 books in the Old Testament. There's 27 books in the New Testament.
Okay.
Originally, the Bible was one long piece of paper, which was a scroll.
Okay.
So there was no chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, Genesis. It was just a long thing that was written.
Okay.
And those scrolls were called the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Okay.
In the late 1300s, they discovered a cave in a small village.
Okay.
Then there was a community of people who were living there. So history tells us that that community, they owned actually the scrolls.
Okay.
So the scrolls is just history that was written by people. One, it was eyewitnesses, people who saw events happening. Two, it was people who were narrating. They told the story and somebody else was writing.
Okay.
So the Bible is written in 2 dimensions.
Okay.
So there's eyewitnesses who wrote.
Yeah.
And then in cases like Moses, who was an eyewitness but he could not write, there was a scribe that was writing on his behalf.
Okay.
So in the late 1800s and the early 1400s, there was a creed in Nicaea in Rome that was put together by Constantine, who was a ruler and a head of state in Rome in that time. So he put together a Nicene Creed, which comprises of about 1,002 bishops, historians, linguists, every people that had interest in history.
Yeah.
So they came together to put together the Bible. He had agreements and disagreements, and a lot of disagreements. So those who disagreed with them, they removed them from the creed itself. So some of the books that were there, they were removed. There was a group that says, let's put everything, as we find a scroll, let's put everything in.
Yeah.
Another group said, no, let's not put this, let's not put that, remove that, remove that, remove that. So all the people who were against, they were removed. Hence, there are books in the Bible that are not in our Bible today. They were removed, and there are no concrete reasons why those books were removed.
So you are saying, before we move, you are saying that upon the discovery in the village, they realized that the information which is there, it's information that is written by people who have witnessed this thing happening. And there's information which was witnessed by those, actually there's information which was recorded by the people who had only stories from people who
lived in those times.
So my question is, amongst the books which are left in the Bible, what do we have? Do we have the information that is written directly, or we still have both stories?
It's both sides. You see, the Bible is written in different categories. There's historic books. Okay, there are books of the law in the Bible, which is called the Pentateuch. Okay. The first 5 books of the Bible: the Genesis, your Exodus, Deuteronomy, Numbers, and Leviticus. Okay. Those are the books of the law. They are called the Pentateuch. In the Jewish Bible, they are called the Torah. It's the same 5 Bibles, the same 5 books in the same sequence. And they are called Torah in the Jewish Bible. It's the same as in our Christian Bible. It's the same sequence. They call it Pentateuch. Okay. Then there are books of history. There are historical books. There are books where nations were built. There are books where judges. There are books. There are different books. Yeah. It's history books. Then there are prophetic books. Then the prophetic books are divided into major prophets and minor prophets. Okay. Major prophets, minor prophets is not the major prophets that we have today in South Africa. Major what. No, it's not that. They were called major and minor prophets because of the brevity of the work they did. Okay. I mean, Isaiah wrote a mini Bible. The book of Isaiah has got 66 chapters. So that's why he falls under the major prophets. People like Micah wrote 1 chapter, 3 chapters of the book. So he falls under the minor prophets. And then there are metaphoric books, there are poetic books, like your Psalms, like your Songs of Solomon. Okay? So there are different categories in the writings in the Bible, depending on who was writing. So the first problem that they had in the group in Nicene was the first 5 books of the Bible. Because the trace shows that it's not possible that one person wrote all those 5 books. So the trace shows that there are multiple writers of those books. It couldn't have been Moses alone. Some of the people who had a lot of interest in reading, in studying characters in the Bible, they studied the character of Moses. Part of the proof that they had was the man was stammering. He was not fluent in speech. He had a stuttering problem. So there was a little bit question on writing skills and what. So part of the writings in the books of the law, there's a heavy trace that Moses did not write. But because of what was being done in the compilation of the Bible, somebody made a choice. Say, okay, these books were written by Moses. Because it was going to prove that there were other people who were writing, that they had to include them. Because we are in Rome, remember, this is Rome. And in that time, Rome was the powerhouse of the world in that time. It was the powerhouse in the whole world. So they had to decide. That's why most of the laws now, most of all the constitutions in all the countries, most of all the criminal justice systems around the world, more than 80% of those come straight from the Bible. Because Rome wanted to systematize the direction of the world, where the world was going to go and how we are going to control everybody in the world. Now, the problem comes because the Jews did not have a good relationship with the Romans, but the Romans had money. The Jews did not have money. They ran the world, they had the capital, they had the world. So there is concrete proof that they sold out. They sold the Bible to the Romans. Because originally the Bible, remember, most of the stories in the Bible are about the Jews. Okay, so in terms of authenticity, the Jews are the ones that own the Bible, actually. It's their culture, it's their thing. They own the Bible.
So, sorry, I don't know how far you have studied or read this, but I want to understand, do you think that upon the transition from the Bible from the hands of the Jews to the Romans, don't you think when the Romans went to codify the Bible, maybe they changed some of the things that
the Nicene Creed when they met? Okay, the Bible took about 300 years to be put together. From the 1400s to the late 1600s. Okay, it took 300 years. In all that 300 years, when the Bible was written, 85% of the world population, number one, was illiterate.
Okay, yeah.
They couldn't read and write. The few that could read and write, in that percentage, not all of them had access to reading material. They could read, but the scrolls were not accessible to everybody.
Okay.
It was not a print that was more than one copy. It was just one copy of the original scroll. That was one. So it was a few people who had access to it, who had access to that information. So they read the whole original thing. They have the whole original picture. But now they had to omit certain things because they had to divert what the Bible was taking the world to. They had to create a certain narration of the Bible. So the original people who had the Bible decided, this is what we are going to include, this is what we are not going to include.
Oh, that's why there are books which were not included.
That's why there are more than 14 books that were removed from the Bible. Okay. And then came modernization of languages. When languages started becoming modernized. Originally, the Bible is written in 3 languages.
Okay.
It's Hebrew, it's Aramaic, and it's Greek. Totally, the New Testament is written in Greek.
Okay.
Because in the time when it was written, the international language was Greek.
Oh.
So in the Old Testament was primarily written in Hebrew and Aramaic.
Okay.
So these are the 3 main languages that the Bible was written in.
So the first ones.
These were the first. And by the 1400s, English languages was already around in the world. And there were already other languages. But now languages were modernizing. They were moving with the times. So some of the words were being introduced in the language. Some of the words had multiple meanings. So when they interpreted the Bible from the original Hebrew, because even the Hebrew language was starting to take shape and put a lot of things in, like when you read in Genesis, the Hebrew language did not have vowels, did not have A, I, O, U.
Okay.
So it was just something that you couldn't read. It was not easy to read.
Yeah.
The first word of God, Yahweh, it's just vowels. It's something that you cannot read.
Yeah.
So the languages kept on improving, and when languages improved, you had to add something. And when you add a word and somebody reads that word, it changes the meaning of the whole sentence. So obviously here and there you have to chip and chop and edit. Cut this, cut that, cut that, cut that. And then with that, we had multiple errors in the inscription of the Bible from the scrolls into papers. Okay. Like Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, they tell 2 different stories of creation. You have totally, the Bible is a story about Jesus. Okay, it tells a story about Jesus, the coming of Jesus. There are 17 prophets in the Old Testament who are prophesying the coming of the Messiah. The Messiah is coming, he's coming. So everybody in the Old Testament is talking about the coming of the Messiah, the coming of the King, the King of Jews, the King who's going to liberate the Jews, the Jewish movement, who's going to establish a kingdom that is everlasting. Okay. So there's nothing much about Jesus in the Bible. We are told about his birth. He was born of a virgin. Yeah. We don't have proof. Okay, science was not that equipped in those times. Yes. It was a virgin birth. It's what we are told. It's what we believe. Yeah. We cannot challenge it because we don't have means to test or prove or disprove. So it's something that we were taught, we were told. Well, it sounds nice. Yeah. Okay. But then at his birth, Herod wants to kill him because he has heard the announcement the king is coming. So he was threatened that there's a new king who's going to take the kingdom. Throne, so he issues a decree, all the children, male children under the 2 years of age must be all killed. So then he escapes with his father. The angel comes, appears to his father, take your wife, take your child, go to Egypt. Yeah. That's my first problem. Why Egypt? Why must you run to Egypt? So Jesus came to Egypt. Okay. It's not clear how many years he stayed there, but when he reappears, he's 12 years old in Jerusalem with a council of scribes and scholars and bishops, and he's debating issues of the gospel with them. and he's taking them from one side to the other side. So they are, for 3 days, he's sitting with them, he's talking with them. All of them, they are amazed at the wisdom that he's having at that age. His parents are looking for him. For 3 days, they find him in the temple. After that, he vanishes again. He reappears when he is 30 years old. John the Baptist says, "Behold the Lamb that takes away the sins of the world." Then he baptizes him at the River Jordan. Then he lives 3 years, does his ministry. After 3 years, he's hanged on the cross, he dies. He resurrects after 3 days. He spends 40 days on the earth, then he's retaken back to heaven. That's the full story.
So they took him to Egypt, like for exile, some exile purpose.
The problem was Herod wanted to kill him. So he had to escape.
This was when
he was born. Exactly when he was born.
So which means there are chances that he spent 12 years in Egypt.
It's possible.
So he learned the gospel in Egypt.
It's possible that he spent the first 12 years of his life in Egypt.
So he came back wise and he knew.
Most of the Bible scholars and most of the theologians and systematic theology must understand systematic theology comes from America. It does not come from Israel. It was not inscribed by the Jews. It was inscribed by the Americans. Okay. There's a lot of Roman and American influence on systematic theology. There's a little bit of Jewish influence. Okay. So it's possible that when he was born, because they would make a narrative taking it back to the Old Testament. When Moses was born, the children in Israel were enslaved and they were being killed. So Moses was taken from the side of the Jews into Egypt. So he spent the first 40 years of his life in Egypt, Moses. So they make the same narrative. Jesus was taken to Egypt. There's a verse in Hebrews that speaks about Jesus going to Egypt. And actually God taking him out of Egypt. Okay. So he could have spent 10, 12 years of the first 12 years of his life in Egypt. Egypt is the first educational system in the whole world. So it's possible he could have first learned how to speak, how to walk, how to run, how to do in Egypt. Then he comes back to Jerusalem when he was 12. So there's nothing much written about him in his physiological state as a human being. One of the only things that will satisfy us that Jesus was indeed a human being, he was born, he lived, is the testimony of one of his disciples, which was Judas. Judas was
the one who betrayed him.
The one who betrayed him, yes. Judas is the only person that came from his neighborhood. They grew up together. He's the only person that called Jesus the son of the carpenter. Everybody called him master, everybody else called him teacher. But Judas called him straight the son of the carpenter. Because they grew up together. They come from the same neighborhood. So they would have spent most of their adolescent life together. And they would have re-met when he started bringing and calling all of his disciples. Remember, Jesus, when he was calling disciples, he called criminals only. And he called tax collectors, and he called all manner of people who were not even part of the church, which was the first problem that the Jews had. Leading to all the things that he did, that they ended up deciding that he must be crucified. But in any case, some of this information, as the Bible is being written, being moved from this one scroll into Bibles, the first Bible that was mass produced, that was printed, was the King James Version in the 1600s. This is 1605, somewhere there, 1612.
So which means there's a suspicion that in some of the books which were not included, they might have told another story of Jesus.
There's a lot of stories that are told about Jesus. Well, for us Christians, is stories that we don't want to believe. Stories that Jesus had a wife and had children. Stories that there's a lot of stories that are told by other books out of the Bible. But if we had equal chance, the problem is if we had an equal chance as Africa, perhaps. To get the original scroll, because right now there's no original scroll. All the original materials of the Bible was banned in the late 1500s when there was a revolution in Rome. So everything that was written down, it was history, it was banned down. So everything that was left was a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy.
Yeah, and translations and translations.
And translations and so right now, we don't have an original manuscript of the Bible. We don't have. It does not exist. All that they have, they're discovering scrolls that tell you in 1948, they discovered scrolls here, they discovered what? They discovered the original Dead Sea Scrolls were destroyed. So right now, we don't have anything authentic. You must remember these things were written thousands and thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
More than 3,000 years. So that paper on its own, which was a sheepskin, it could have dilapidated.
Yeah.
There were no technological things like for preservation of things that we have today. So we really don't have an original source of the Bible. We cannot test it against anything.
Yeah.
Because this is what we are told. You can only go back to the original translations. You go to the original translation of the King James Bible. By the way, the original King James Bible has more than 110,000 errors. There are many corrections that were made between the 1600 and the early 1700s. They were chopping and correcting. So
what is it that informed these guys to correct this information?
Modernization.
Improvement. They had to align it to
language.
Okay.
Yeah. What you see today, what you don't see tomorrow. Things that make the world go easier and faster. You see. So there was a way of speaking that was between the lines of culture, religion, and history. Okay. Because you have to study history, you have to study culture, you have to study what is happening currently.
Yeah.
Okay. In order for you to understand, when the book of Genesis was written, you must understand which era of the year was it, which culture was prevailing, what was happening. The first problem that is not explained, nobody explains. You can't find it anywhere in the Bible, in the books of history, is the age of the world.
Oh yeah.
You cannot pinpoint exactly how old the world is. When Adam was created, he was not born.
Yeah.
He was created. How did they count his years? Because if he was created today, he was a full grown man and he started working same time.
Yeah.
He did not have to depend on parents or what. So does his age start the day when he stood up and walked? How long was the world there before he was created? That's the question. Because the world was there for a long time before Adam was created. Hence, there's a question of the pre-Adamics, that there were people before Adam was created. It's a question that is found in one of the other books that was not involved, which was removed from the Bible. The purpose of these books being removed, we don't know, because now this Bible that we have is a singular story. It takes one direction. You can see that the people who were writing it, they were pointing us straight to one direction, without us having to have different views of where are we going, where does this thing come from. You see, Greek mythology, there was female gods in the Greek mythology. There were gods who were feminine, who were women. There was more than one god. Greek mythology, Roman mythology, all of the other countries in the world had a multiple view of what God is, who God is. So most of the religions and most of the cultures in the world, most of the people in Africa, they believed in more than one entity as a God.
Okay, you spoke about systematic theology.
Yes.
Can we go back to systematic theology? Don't you think that a system is something which it's created by a group of people to take a particular direction?
Yes.
Maybe that will result in them controlling something.
So
I want to ask, when you speak about systematic theology, don't you think that upon the drafting or in the final, actually in the Bible that we have today, upon the guys who came together to draft the final chapters or the books that we need to have so that the system could work for them. Don't you think that in creating this system, these guys removed some of those books so that the Bible can give the world a direction that they want?
Yes. The book of Revelations was included last. There was a lot of debate and arguments and wars. It was only included in the Bible 40 years after the Bible was completed. There was a lot of wars against it because of its apocalyptical structure of the world, how the world is going to end and how the wars are going. So the people who are putting down the Bible, they are having a certain governmental purpose. That the Bible, they turned it into a weapon to make sure that they subdue everybody, every country, everywhere in the world. Okay. All the countries in the world, we never had a political system in the world.
Okay.
We only had a monarch system.
Yeah.
And all the kings in the world, even Jews, they did not have a king in Israel. Okay. There was no king in Israel. They were led by God. They were led by spirits. Their leadership was spiritual until they wanted something more concrete. Then Moses is the first person to take them out of slavery. He takes them out of Egypt. He takes them to the promised land. But he himself does not enter into the promised land. He dies before they enter into the promised land. Okay, they don't see him die. They can't bury him. His body, even right now, nobody knows where he is. So
there's no grave of Moses.
There's no grave of Moses. History tells us that God took him. Because there was a war in heaven and the devil wanted his body. So God took his body, took his spirit, took his body, took it out for a specific spiritual meaning. Okay. So there was their first leader. Then after that was Joshua and Caleb. Okay, they were leading them and then they were frustrating. Imagine you have to lead more than 5 million men without counting women and children. So it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And you have to lead them.
Yeah.
So before Moses dies, God instructs him to choose 70 elders. Then you will govern together with the 70. So that's why most of governance systems, they have all these different pillars. Because they're taking this thing directly from the Bible. And for you to take this thing from the Bible, you have to have a Bible that will agree with your agenda. So that's why when they originally wrote the Bible, they were thinking 300 years ahead. That if we allow all these books to be there, for example, if they inscribed everything the way it was going to free everyone. Everyone was going to be free. Everyone was going to see the world the way we are supposed to see it. But what we have today is in Africa, the Bible is the only book that can be translated into all languages. All languages. Even here in South Africa, you have the Bible translated in all the 9 languages, all the 11 official languages. But why can't we have mathematics translated in all languages? Science, for example. Why can't we have textbooks of biology being translated into all African languages? You can't. The Bible is the only one because it is a system that has to oppress everyone. It is a tool that was used to oppress. We are the Jews and the Islamic groups and the Buddhists are the only 3 nationalities that can practice culture and religion at the same time. For us, you either choose to be a vendor or a Christian. You can't be a vendor and a Christian at the same time. You can't practice your culture. Everybody else in the world, everyone in the world. And Muslims, when they come to Africa, they tell you, they change your name. You are no longer a vendor, you are Ahmed, Mohammed, something. So that is what religion wants to do. It wants to take your identity away from you and convert you into something that you are not. So all these things started when the Bible was actually discovered and when it was actually translated and put into a book format. And then it was mass produced, sent throughout the whole world. The King James Version is the most popular, most printed book the world has ever seen. And there are more than 55,000 Bible translations today. More than 55,000.
And every time when they translate,
something else is removed, something else is added. And so you cannot call it an infallible word of God. Because you must now understand that if something is infallible, if something is a total truth, you cannot change it today or tomorrow or yesterday. The way it sounded yesterday, it must sound today and tomorrow. But chances are, every day it changes. Somebody's writing something, somebody's writing a new commentary on the Bible. Somebody's writing from the standpoint where they are standing and from their own understanding. You go to study theology. Number one, the first problem about systematic theology and all the churches, all the Christian churches in Africa, in South Africa, in America, everywhere, there is no one who came from the Jewish nation to go and start and mass produce the gospel internationally. No one. Not even a single Jew. There is not even a single Jewish scholar that you can read about today. All the historians and all the scholars are people who came from outside of Jerusalem, outside of the Jewish nation. The Jews themselves, the way they handle the gospel, even today, if you follow the Jewish culture, they don't want to give you everything. Because this is their own culture, it's their tradition. Okay, so systematic theology is Americans, people outside, people from Rome, people from outside, who are not the original heirs of the Jewish culture. They are people who studied from outside. And then they wrote systematic theology. They sent the gospel throughout the whole world. That is my first problem. If Jesus walked with people and these people, they followed after him, they saw what he did. Some of them were even his disciples. They could not take the same gospel to the rest of the world. Why? Those stories. Thomas, one of the disciples of Jesus, wrote it. There's a book about Thomas. It's called The Gospel of Thomas. It's not in the Bible. It was removed. Peter was a favorite. They liked everybody loves Peter. Even though Peter had his own mistakes. There's people who did not like Judas. Everybody does not like Judas. Judas is a betrayer. He betrayed Jesus. Why? Why is there a what is the agenda? Judas betrayed Jesus. We all agree. It's written. It's right there in black and white. Jesus prophesied him. The same night he prophesied Peter. He prophesied him. Jesus said, "One of you is going to betray me." He put it plain. He did not point straight to the person. He said, "One of you is going to betray me." Then Judas said, "Is it me?" Okay. So Jesus says, "No, the one who's going to put the hand in a tissue together with me." So it happens exactly like that. The same night, Jesus prophesies Peter. Jesus is arrested. Peter takes out the knife, he cuts the ear. Then Peter says, "They are not going to arrest you. They're not going to take you. I'm going to die where you are going to die." Jesus looks at Peter. He says, "Before the cock crows, you are going to deny me 3 times. And Peter denied Jesus 3 times in one night. With 3 different people. But Judas betrayed Jesus once. We hate him up to today. The same Peter who denied Jesus 3 times is exonerated. Nobody's talking about that. There's a crux of an agenda that wants to take. Remember, I said Judas grew up with Jesus. He is the only person that can tell us Jesus was born. He was a real person. I grew up with this guy. I used to play with him. Peter met Jesus when he was 30. Judas grew up with Jesus. They come from the same neighborhood. So you see, the narration of the Bible is to take a certain direction. So that today, when you question the personality of Jesus, it's clouded. There's a lot of cloud. It's not easy to say Jesus was really there. He was. Today, there's a lot of Mark Antony pictures of Jesus, white, and Jesus never looked like that. Even the people that come from his neighborhood, they don't look like that.
So with all the prophets who are getting received, I don't know whether it's to receive or to get visions, they cannot be given a vision of how did Jesus really look. So we are still going to be deceived by this picture that we have.
This picture is not original. It's not the way Jesus did not look like it. That's not Jesus. The description of Jesus, where the description that we have of Jesus in the book of Revelation is the picture of a spirituality of Jesus, not the physical Jesus. Because they say his hair is like the hair of the sheep. It's his hair is so white. His eyes are so glowing. So it's not a human form. So it's a spiritual form that John is actually depicting. Prophetically, that's the only vision that you can see of Jesus. But physically, how he looked and how he was, we have to go back to history. We have to study how the Jewish people looked like, number one. And you must understand they came from different sectors. He was from Nazareth, so we have to go to study and look at how the people in Nazareth looked like. And he did not look like them, by the way, because he was a nomadic person. He would move from place to place to place to place. He was moving between different types of climates. So that would have affected the texture of your skin and what. But what is drawn there is actually not. It's not the real.
I wanted to ask a question about the Bible as a tool. So it was designed maybe to control the world or to control the economy of the world. I don't know, or the politics. So I want you to talk about that. What is it that these guys wanted to achieve using the Bible?
Look, from Genesis, from the book of Genesis, Egypt was the powerhouse of the world. The times of Genesis. That's why you find Joseph going to Egypt. And when there was famine in the whole world, there was no food in the whole world. Egypt was the only place that had wealth, that had food. Everybody was coming to Egypt to buy food. So in that season, Egypt was the powerhouse of the world. You jump into Exodus, Egypt was the powerhouse of the world. So Africa, originally Africa was in the beginning of time. Africa was in the helm of rulership of the whole world. Actually, that's the first point. Secondarily, then you have migration and then people going out, and then the concentration now. The Bible is taking your focus out of Africa. That's the first thing. That's the first agenda. The focus was taken out of Africa. Look in Genesis, Exodus, there are 5 countries in Africa that are mentioned by name. Ethiopia is there. There are 5 countries that are mentioned from Africa by name in the book of Genesis. Well, America was not there. Okay, then you have your Asia Minors, then you have your Jerusalem. But the rest of the world was not mentioned up until after the ages, even into the New Testament. Some of the countries are not even mentioned. Okay, because the center, you will go everywhere in the Bible, even through to the New Testament. The center of all conflict, the center of all relationships between Israel will always defect and come back to Egypt. So there is something in relations with Israel, the plan of God, and Africa. There's something that, because originally when they check, the oldest skeleton of a human being found that was discovered, it was the skeleton of Eve, and it was discovered in Africa. So according to history and according to science, the oldest skeleton, the oldest skull that is here today, that is found in museums today, is a skull of a woman, and that woman was Eve. So origins of life point back to Africa. But now, it's not the agenda of the world. If you take that agenda and you put it straight in the Bible, it would lead everybody to come back to Africa. But now, it would divert the whole agenda. Africa is now number last. It was taken out of everything. That's why Africa is the leading, in the whole world, is leading in terms of minerals and mining. Every mineral in the world, you can go and find any country that is mining gold and mining. they don't compare to Africa.
Yeah.
So everything was right here in Africa.
Yes.
It was here. The first 4 rivers were here in Africa, in Genesis. That's Genesis chapter 2. They were found here, right here in Africa.
Yeah.
So when the Bible was written, these people had time to sit and read and have first-hand information of what is written. And they had time to check and test. This is true, this is true, this is true. And if this thing can go out the way it is going to keep us the way we are in the world. So the number 1 continent in the world would always be Africa.
Yeah.
Africa would always be on top. So the important thing was for information to be omitted from the Bible, so that when the Bible eventually made its way to Africa, it will be easy for them to enslave us.
Oh.
Because now they strip you of your culture, they strip you off, they tell you your grandfather, your great-great-grandfathers who are dead, they are demons. That's what religion tells you. But in Israel, when they pray to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Those people died a long time ago, but they're not called demons. Our ancestors who died are called demons. In Egypt right now, in Jerusalem right now, God is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Okay, so how must we read this Bible so that we are not deceived?
The problem right now is we don't have the original manuscript, so we don't know what is the original. We don't know the original version of the Bible. That's the problem. We know the contaminated version of the Bible. But is the Bible the word of God? That's the question. Is the Bible the infallible word? Is the total word of God? That's the question. Or is the Bible the word of God, the word of people about God? Because there's a difference. If a person is writing about God, he had his own experiences about God, then he would write what he saw, what he experienced, and what he saw God to be. It's not directly what God said. You understand?
Yeah.
So there are, for example, when you study, there are 3,500 names of God in the Bible. This is just the Old Testament. These are the Jehovah names. These are the Elohim names. Okay. The name of God is Elohim. Okay. And then Elohim is the name God, the self-existing one. Okay. Then there's a word Yahweh. Yeah, the original name of God is Yahweh. Okay. Now the El names of God, the Elohim names of God, okay, are names that were given to God by people. Like Jacob, he went and he slept on a rock, and he said, "From today, this place shall be called El Bethel." Okay, so he gave God a name according to what he experienced on that day.
Yeah.
Okay. You find David says you'll call him my shepherd. Okay. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of the I shall, because he experienced something.
Yeah.
And God became his warrior in that. See, but the original word of the name of God originally is Yahweh, and nobody is using that name. No one. So we all use Jehovah is not a name. The name Jehovah is a title. Okay, it's a title.
Yeah.
It's not a name. So when you study, you become a lawyer. You are called a lawyer.
Yeah.
You study, you become an advocate. Your title changes. Then you become a magistrate. Your title changes. Then you become a judge.
Yeah.
So the name Jehovah is a title name. That's why you call him Jehovah Jireh.
Yeah.
So you put a title in front, then you put a functional name next to it.
See what is Jireh?
Jireh is the man of war. Is God that is fighting for you, fighting your battles.
Okay. No, I get it now.
Now, so they put the title in front, and then and that is systematic theology, by the way. It makes people come from America and preach like they know everything, because they come with all these things that you feel like, wow.
Yeah.
Like they say, wow. There's nothing wow about that. It's things that were written systematically in the Bible.
Okay.
So that they set a certain platform that will invite you. When you come, you must, when Jesus calls people, he says, come as you are.
Yeah.
Come with everything that you have. Come. But religion says you must relinquish this and that and that.
Yeah.
You cannot come with the graves of your grandfathers. When they left Egypt in Genesis, when they left Egypt, the elders of Israel said to the nation, we must go back and take the bones of Jacob, the bones of Joseph and the 70 elders, because the 70 elders and Joseph died in Egypt. They were buried in Egypt.
Okay.
So when they moved out of Egypt, they went to their graves, they exhumed their bodies, they took their bones and they left with them.
Okay.
But you cannot go to the gravesite according to religion. You cannot go and speak to your people and your forefathers in the gravesite. It's an abomination. According to who? And who tested it? Who said when you go and speak to your ancestors, you are actually committing a spiritual violation? Nobody. When Jesus died, the curtain in the temple was torn. The curtain that divided the holy place and the most holy place, it was torn when he died. The graves were opened when he died. When he died, the graves were opened and people came out. They were resurrected from the grave. They came out. They walked for 40 days. The Bible says for 40 days, the people were walking amongst the living. But when we go to gravesites today, we teach our congregants, we teach the world that when you go to the world, to the place of the living, you see, the graveyard is called the place of the living. So when you go there, they say you are committing a spiritual violation because you are opening a door, you are inviting spirits. That's why even right now, when you go to a gravesite in other places, when you go to the cemeteries, to the gravesite, there are laws. You can't walk with your cell phone. Your cell phone must be switched off. You can't wear like this. You can't wear. There are laws. And those laws are from the Bible. They were made to oppress people. Remember, the Bible, the first 5 books of the Bible are called the books of the law. Okay. There are 179 laws, which are called the laws of the moral law. That's where the moral law and the civil law comes from. There are 135 laws in between the book of Genesis, Exodus, Numbers, Leviticus, and Deuteronomy in the Bible.
Okay.
That's where all the laws on your constitution, they come from those books. Your criminal justice system, they took it from there. And then there are 366 laws which are called the Talmud in the New Testament. These are the laws that Jews, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the scribes, these are the laws that they added. They are not the laws of God. They are the laws that were added by men. For example, the laws to control. The law that says close your eyes when you pray is not the law of God. Jesus never closed his eyes when he prayed. There is no law that says you must close your eyes when you pray. Every time when you read the Bible says, and Jesus went away to pray. And when they came, the Bible says he lifted up his eyes to heaven, then he prayed. You'll never find anywhere in the scripture, anywhere in the Bible, anybody that prayed, and the Bible says, and they closed their eyes and prayed. No. It was a system, it was a law to control multitudes. Number one, you must remember when originally the Bible made its way into public sectors, only one person was allowed to hold the Bible, which was a rabbi or the leader of the church. Everybody else did not have access to even touch it. Part of the law of the Talmud was the Bible is not supposed to be touched by women. You see, so if a woman touched the Bible, they would take that Bible and burn it. It was the law of the Jews. That's why even now, women cannot be pastors according to the Jewish law. You cannot be a pastor and be a woman. You can't be an apostle. You can't be a bishop when you are a woman. According to the Jew, it's the law of men that was added. It's not the law of God. That's why when you read the Bible, the law that says women must cover their heads, it was not the law of God. It did not come from God. In Corinth, in that city of Corinth, when Paul came, there was chaos there. One, prostitutes, the sign of prostitutes was that women would cut off their hair. So when you see a woman with her hair cut off, it was a sign this woman is a prostitute. So Paul said it's better for women to cover their heads. so that we can remove all the stigma that people are having. Cover your head, put something on your head. Not that every woman in the church must put something on their head.
Yeah.
So there are laws, there are a lot of laws in the Bible that were taken, which are not direct laws from God. The law that says you must bend on your knees and pray, it's not in the Bible.
Okay, the Jews, most of the Jews are the wealthiest people in business, strategic economies. They are there.
Not exactly the Jews. No,
the Jewish.
In terms of tracing and history, the Arabs are the richest people.
Yeah, I understand.
Because if you check the past 4 economic world meltdowns, the past, just go 400 years, not long, just 400 years.
Yeah,
the world meltdowns. The Arabs were never poor. They never lost anything.
Yeah,
they're still rich even today.
There's an area where I don't know whether it's property or something where you only find them.
Yes,
everywhere.
Yes.
So I want to understand.
The Jews are number 2.
Oh.
Yeah, they are number 1 is Arabs. The Arabs, the original descendants of Ishmael.
Oh.
Okay. Ishmael is the firstborn son of Abraham. Isaac is the secondborn son of Abraham. Okay. But now, the Bible that we are reading, they twisted the story and they made Ishmael to look like a bastard son.
Oh.
You see, so originally, the firstborn son is the one that inherits the blessing from the father.
Yeah.
That's why even today, the Arabs, everywhere you go, even here in South Africa, the Arabs have their own bank.
Yeah.
It's tax-free.
Yeah.
They don't need tax. They don't have a loan.
Yeah.
They are funded 100%. They will never, even if during lockdown, and you will never hear the Arabs begging for anything from anyone.
Okay.
Original, it's there in the Bible. It's just that it was twisted. Most of the things were removed.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe next time when I come, I must speak about my book, because I wrote a book about Ishmael.
Okay.
Okay. It was a system to use the Bible as a tool to control the world. And the tool was powerful enough to make sure that when the world economic powers shift from one part of the world to another part of the world, they can still use the system. Okay? Because it's all these things are done by a system. The political system is not about the person that is there in the office today, whether you like him or you don't like him.
Yeah.
You wish he can die or he must. It's not about, you can remove all presidents and put new people. The system will still do the same thing that it's doing. Because the corrupted thing is the system. It's not the face that is there wearing the jacket today. You know? Then you'll hear all these things that all politicians wear black suits. It's a satanic thing. All those, it's just speculation. The problem is the system.
Oh, so in conclusion, when we see the number of poor black people in Africa, can we safely say that the Bible has contributed to that?
The Bible played more than 90% role of stripping people of their original inheritance. Okay. Remember, number 1, in Africa, we did not know how to read and write. They brought the Bible. So we depended on them to tell us what is written in that book.
Oh.
They came with the Bible colleges. They came with Bible institutions. They came with theology. They kept on improving and changing it. The first thing that religion did when it came to Africa, it came to put fear into the hearts of men.
Yeah.
Because religion came and says the world is coming to an end. That was the first priority of preachers who came to Africa. They preached the end of the world. That the end is near, Jesus is coming back.
Yeah.
If you are not on his side, you are dead. You are going to be taken with the world. You're going to be thrown into hell, into a fire that will never be quenched by anything. That was the basis of the foundation of the gospel that came to Africa.
Yeah.
You can trace all the early revivals in Africa in the late 1800s, in the early 1900s, 1921. You can trace all of them. They all spoke the same language. Everyone came from America, came from or the Roman Catholics when they came to tell you need to give everything that you have to God. That's where the issues of money came into the church. That everything that you do, you give 10% of that to God. If you don't give that thing to God, God is gonna judge you, and there's no. You see, so it was a tool when it was introduced. Okay, it was introduced as a weapon to make sure that they subject us to all these things. Remember, originally, all the kings in all the nations, you can never assume the office of the king unless a priest will come and ordain you. So it was the church that had the responsibility to place a government. You can all go and elect a government even today. When you inaugurate a president, somebody must come and place the Bible here and say to the president, put your hand on the Bible. You go to court to get married, put your hand on the Bible. You go to court, you swear, you put your hand on the Bible. Everything, you put it on the Bible. Okay, so it was a strategic move from the original people who moved it from its 100% purity, its state of purity, when it was pure as a scroll. The problem was that the scrolls were written in one long format. It was very difficult to read.
Okay.
So they had to segmentize it, and they make segments. They put chapters and they put names. This is Genesis. This is so they were thinking that they were organizing it. To look more professional, but they were really organizing the whole world to fall into place. Okay, so you cannot challenge the law today. There's some of the laws that we have they are unreasonable. They are very unreasonable. We can't challenge them because their authenticity is based on the foundation of the Bible. It's like when you challenge the law, you're challenging the crux of the Bible because the foundation is the Bible. Thou shalt not kill, it's from there, from the Bible. But now they did not read the remedial methods that they used in the times of the Bible. Because now they decide you do something, then you must go to prison for 15 years. You do this one, you must go to prison for 100 years. Not thinking that if you take a man to prison for 15 years and then you release him after 10 years or 11 years, he has already lost 11 years of his life with the community, with the society, to participate in the economy. So after 11 years, you are already unemployable. You cannot work anywhere. You cannot play any meaningful role in the society. Imagine you are arrested in your late 30s and you come out of prison when you are 60. You're already at the end of your life. And if the law could have provided other means other than just to take your life away, it would have been better for them to say, okay, you are guilty, like in the days of the Bible. When you were pronounced guilty of a specific crime, they would tell you this crime constitutes that we must stone you to death right now. Because it does not help for us to take you to a cave for 50 years and then you come back and rejoin us when you are already dead. So the law was placed there, and there are remedials in the Bible which are ignored. Okay, because you would find a story of a king in the Bible where there was a man who was guilty of a certain crime, and the king decided, because I'm a king and I'm a judge, he decided that I pardon your sin right now. I pardon you of all your crimes. Go, you're free. So today there's no magistrate that can say, they say you killed 2 people there. Here's the firearm. Here's the evidence. Here's the DNA. What? There's no judge that can say, okay, you are free. I'm releasing you because I have authority to find you guilty or not. See, those things happened in the Bible days. Kings used to do that. Kings would wake up in the morning, I want 100 people dead just now, just because I feel like. You send this army, go into the community, go kill everybody. Then they'll go out, they kill people, they come. And then they say, so many people are dead there, and they'd come and rejoice and make a party. Today the king is happy, go and give people food, let everybody drink, let everybody be merry. Because the king is happy. Okay, so systematically, this is what they were building it up to. So that as the world goes in and goes forward, there must be a system to control these people. Okay, and the main direction of the world, the main direction is pointing to Africa, because that's where everything is. All the talented people are here.
Yeah.
All the minerals are here. All the money is here. Most of the economy of Africa is outside Africa. Most of the ownership of South Africa is not owned by Africans.
Yeah.
You are a South African, you have a house in Limpopo, you have a house in Soweto, you have a house. That land does not belong to you.
Yes.
It belongs to the Kingdom of England. South Africa belongs to the Queen.
Yeah.
The recent one that died.
Yeah.
The King of England owns Africa.
Yeah.
There are many countries that are owned by England. Even South Africa, this one.
Yeah.
We can fight for land distribution and what and all these political nice jargons, whatever they call it. We will never own this land.
Yeah.
Until the people who bought it from other people bring it back to us. We will never own this land. Because they took it by blood and they took it by agreement. There was agreements that was signed in blood to take over the whole country.
Yeah.
So they took it.
Okay.
For us to migrate from originally Africa originally, post-colonization, the leadership style of Africa post-colonization, nobody knows about it. How was Africa run before white people came here? Before all these external forces came in? How was Africa? Before the Bible came into Africa, how did we converse with spirituality? Because we were spiritual people before the gospel came here. We were spiritual before the Bible came here. We were spiritual people. How did we connect with our spirituality?
Yeah.
It is not written down. Wherever it is written down, it is hidden. It is not supposed to be out there. So they studied, these people studied these things and they saw, for you to be able to oppress the whole world, this is the Roman system. That's what the Romans did.
Yeah.
To oppress, when they oppressed the whole world, unlike in other empires, the Roman system is simple. You'll see even in the times of Jesus, when they came and they fought against the nation, they did not take all of you like Babylon. Okay. In Babylon, they would come to Africa and fight and defeat you, and they take all of you away from Africa. They take you back to Babylon. But in the Roman Empire, in the Roman era, they went out, they conquered you, they go back to Rome, they send people from Rome to that country to colonize you, to make everything there look like Rome. Everything that they find there, they must turn it, it must look exactly like Rome.
Yeah.
So the system of education, they have to change it.
Yeah.
The system of culture, they have to change it. They don't agree with your culture. They don't agree with everything that makes you an African. They don't agree with it. So they have to change you. Now they have to put a cell phone in your hand. They have to keep on improving these social media things. It's WhatsApp today. It's Twitter tomorrow. It's Facebook tomorrow. It's something that must remove your culture from you. You must look exactly like the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Why are we speaking English today? It's because we have to learn English. It's an international language. If I end up in America tomorrow, I must be able to converse with people.
Yeah.
Why must it be English? Today you find French people, they come to Africa, they don't speak English. They speak French. They will pay an interpreter to interpret.
Yeah.
You get people from Dubai, they come here, they speak their language.
Yeah.
If you want to know what they're saying, it's either you employ an interpreter to come and interpret. There are cultures and there are customs that do not compromise when it comes to culture and language. Even here in South Africa, you get a coach for pirates or what, they come, they don't speak proper English.
Yeah.
They don't care about English.
Yeah.
They speak their language. Somebody must interpret, why is pirates losing games? So the problem is communication between the coach and the players, and the information comes late because we must go through the interpreter.
Yeah.
There are people who don't care. They don't care. They speak their language.
Okay.
Tina, we have multiple languages here, but we opt to speak English. Because we have been colonized so much that even when we don't even understand freedom. Yeah. What is free? We don't understand. This thing that we got in the 90s to be free, we don't understand what it is. We were not ready for freedom. Because now, to the ANC, it looked like they had to come out of slavery to come, then we are now free. But what does it mean to be free? How do we run the country from now going forward? Because now everything that happened from that time up to now, all the problems that we have now, governmentally, all the problems that we have now, it's a signal and it's a sign that what we are doing, we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know. We are used to a monarch system in Africa.
Okay.
We are people of royalty. We are used to a king.
Yeah.
We must have a king that will rule over us. Okay. We are not used to this political system.
Yeah.
It's something that we don't know. We can study it. We can go to the university and get all kinds of degrees, but this is not our thing. We were not born for this thing. It's not for us at all. You can change and put in one administration. We can say let's put 10 or 20 years and say in the next 20 years there are no elections. This year the ANC will be from the president will be from the ANC and the ministers and everybody. Next year is EFF. Next year is DA. Next year, for 20 years, we are not going to solve anything. Because our major problem is that the political system is not our blood inheritance. It's not in our bloodline.
It seems
we were born out of royalty.
It seems like even on this one, you have more knowledge. Must reserve it for a particular episode.
Yeah,
we'll speak on it straight
directly.
Or to only talk about it, the politics and the leadership of the state. What is it that's going on? What went wrong, and things like that. It seems like you understand all these systems of the world.
Not really. Not really. You know what the problem of the problem, more especially in our fraternity as pastors, we have created an impression that we have answers for all questions, and it's not true.
Yeah.
There is not one single human being who can have answers for everything. The problem is just that we have studied here and there and there. We've studied a lot of things. So that's why maybe you can migrate to this issue and debate. We must not create an impression that we have solutions for everything. That is what is failing us even politically.
Yeah.
Because we front as if we are okay, even when we are not okay. We front as if now we have a solution, we're going to solve this, we're going to solve it. And there are things that we are not going to be able to solve. Systematically, this Bible that we are having is going nowhere. Everybody's having it, everybody's buying it, everybody must buy it. Okay. What are you saying, Pastor? Maybe someone is asking, what are you saying? So are you saying we must throw this Bible away? We can't throw it away. Must we believe in it? There's a lot of things that we believe. We believe in things that we don't know. And there's a lot of things that we know that we don't believe. Okay? For example, your science will tell you that the sun is 15.8 million miles away from the earth. It's a big number. It's believable. So when the sun is out and you are sitting here, you are looking up, you can see the sun. It literally means your eyesight can see 15 million miles away from where you are. But you go and make an eye test, you can't see 10 feet from you. You see? So it's the things that we believe and the things that we know. But we really are confused in what we believe in and what we want to choose to know and what we choose not to know. Okay? So there's a lot of things that we were misled on. The generation that we are living in right now, we are living through deception.
Yeah.
We have been misled into believing in a lot of things that perhaps they were not like that originally. Okay. So there's a whole lot of wrong things that have happened, particularly here in Africa, that stripped our originality as Africans from us. The number one thing that we must blame is the Bible. I'm a pastor, I can tell you for free. The Bible is the one major thing that made us to lose everything that we have here in Africa.
No, thank you. I think that can be a good conclusion for the episode that we had today. And I believe that we're going to continue and speak about other topics, especially on religion, the Bible, all these systems of the world, politics and everything. But for this episode, thank you, Mr. Mthimunye. I hope we record more episodes to come.
I'm always here. I'm always here. Thank you very much for having
If
me.
people want to help us, they can help us with cameras. We need lights. We need
Just support.
mixers. We need the background, and then we can do a shout out of their business, and then we push each other. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscription button. Thank you.
Thank you.